welcome to our spoiler review of Who Killed Christopher Goodman by Allan.
It was okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I didn't hate it.
So, short.
Like short enough, like anymore, and you would have been like, oh, I hate my life. But it was the right length for the story. Okay, why this book might be interesting to you. It is about a murder. It is not a murder mystery. You know from page 1 exactly who killed Christopher Goodman, but this book is the result of a murder that happened to a childhood friend of the author, and he's kind of like been affected by it his whole life. The ending especially is kind of him working through his feelings about it, and that's really the most interesting part, is you're like, yeah, I get this, I understand why you feel this, and I can see myself feeling like that if this ever happened to somebody I knew. That's why it's interesting.
So you have 6 characters, and each of the characters is involved in the murder somehow. I mean, one of the characters is the murderer, and then the other 5 have some kind of interaction with him right before or leading up to. So like, there's Mildred. Mildred has a crush on Christopher, and all of the characters are going for pizza, and so Mildred, her big moment, she wants to ask him to come with them, but she chickens out. So she blames herself, because if she had just, had gotten up the courage to ask him, then maybe he'd still be alive.
And there's a guy who has a crush on her named Doc. When Mildred realizes that she's kind of like missed her chance to like ask Christopher and plucks up her courage, she gives him a note to leave on his car. But Doc decides not to leave it on his car because he's interested in Mildred and doesn't want Christopher hanging around.
So now he's sitting there thinking, maybe if I had put that note on the car, then he might have come back and he'd be alive, but like, he might not have even noticed, and like, so he's running all these possible scenarios. There's Squib, who has a ice cream truck, and he is robbed, or there's an attempted robbery on his ice cream truck by the 2 kids who end up killing Christopher Goodman. And he withholds information. Not really just because.
Like, yeah, he just doesn't want to tell the cops because they're being dicks, so.
And so he's now sitting there thinking, maybe if I had told more then, because he had seen them kind of lurking the truck before the attempted robbery happened, maybe if I had given more information, then they would have been reprimanded and Christopher Goodman would still be alive. Hazel, the farm girl, her family has a petting zoo at like the county fair called Deadwood, and Leonard and Leonard's friend come up to her because Leonard lost his dog, and the dog was in the alpaca enclosure.
Which is kind of cute.
And so she's giving the dog back, and she realizes that Leonard, he cares about the dog, but she also noticed that Lance, the other guy, has a gun. And she thinks, maybe if I had done something or said something, then
maybe they wouldn't have been in the right place to shoot Christopher.
And Hunger, the last kid, he was going to his car, and he saw Leonard and Lance trying to break into a bunch of other cars, and he thinks that maybe he should have called them out because, if they had come at him, then he could have fought them off because he's a bit more scrappy. And then Christopher Goodman would still be alive. And the big overarching thing is the foster parents of Leonard were dicks to everyone in some kind of way. So our group of heroes decide that they're going to pull a prank on them. And so they take a barrel full of manure, break into the foster parents' car, and dump it in. Leonard's plan was he was going to steal the foster parents' car and drive away to Hollywood. When he gets home to steal the car is full of manure. The foster parents flip out.
Blame Leonard.
So then Leonard takes the gun to go and find anyone to steal the car, and that's what ends up happening. They end up killing Christopher for his car.
There isn't a lot happening in these people's lives before the night of the fair, really. It's just kind of like the build-up. Like, Doc ends up getting arrested because the foster parent was a dick. And, there's like the beginnings of the relationship with Christopher and Mildred and Hunger and Hazel kind of work out minor issues.
There is nothing that's unneeded in this book. It lays it out flat for you. And I really liked that concept of how little things you do can kind of snowball and cause something big to happen. And even though you didn't really do anything, you are in a way related, but it's not your fault. And just how insidious guilt can be. So I really liked that. But
yeah, it's like a very simple story that only works if you want to take it philosophically and you really kind of just want to imagine what it would have been like to be in their shoes kind of deal.
And I mean, the author handles it very well.
Oh yeah.
The atmosphere is good. I liked that even though the characters were very, like, one-dimensional, like, everybody had their defining thing, you don't get into a lot of detail about them, but they all had very distinct voices, so that was kind of nice. Like, they all spoke differently, their dialogue was different. It was good.
You never got them confused with each other, which sometimes happens in bad novels. You're like, what's the difference between person 1, 2, and 3? And you're like, no, I got this, you know, you understand exactly who each person is, even though it's not like the most in-depth thing ever. So that was really good. And then he also I think handled Squib very well, who is a kid with Tourette's, and so his relationship with his best friend Doc is kind of complicated, and so they kind of deal with that a little bit because, you know, on the one hand Doc's like, I really like you, but sometimes I hate like being the person to introduce you to everyone else. Their dynamic and them working through it was really interesting. That was a pretty strong relationship in the book.
And I mean, I liked Squib's kind of moment where Squib and Doc have a fight, and Squib ends up becoming the better person because he's just like, look, okay, he's still my best friend. I'm still gonna get him out of this bind, and like, okay, maybe the guy who he's hanging out with kind of bullied me when I was a kid, but they're friends now, and so I'm friends with him by proxy because that's just how it works. I'm not going to be an asshole just because I'm jealous. I'm gonna just
let it go.
Let it go. And so that was nice.
Yeah. So like there are some like genuinely good moments between the characters. It's just not all of it's like a big shining star. So if you're like looking for a book with a murder mystery,
don't pick this up.
That's not a murder mystery. You know that Leonard killed Christopher.
That's the thing it's so obvious.
It's almost so obvious that you're like, it can't be this kid.
Yeah, it's just
and then the more you read, you're like, it's definitely this kid.
And you just like, how is it gonna happen? It's just, you know it's coming.
But, like, if you wanna, like I said, kind of, like, think about it and, like, what that situation would be like and kind of almost talk to somebody who's gone through that, that's kind of what this book is good for. So you might enjoy it. It might not be your thing, but it's, like, a very simple story in a way.
Oh, you can knock it back really quick. Like,
does
not take long.
Yeah, you're not wasting your time when you're reading it. If that sounds like your thing, definitely check it out. If not, don't feel bad. So we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good.
And, not much more to say about it. Nope. So we will see you guys next time.
Bye.